What's up, my dudes? Boys, we got us some DLC of some DLC right here. Oh, man. MX vs. ATV Reflex DLC on Legends as DLC, okay? Don't get confused here. Kind of crazy having DLC as DLC, but yeah. We have Boxcar from Reflex on MX vs. ATV Legends. I will say, even though this was DLC on Reflex, I still think it's pretty iconic. I still think it's very memorable, especially with the fact that it just came with the PC version of Reflex, so technically you never had to buy it separately or anything like that. And I feel like most people, you know, for the last 10 plus years have been playing the PC version of Reflex. So really, in a sense, it's kind of like Boxcar and the DLC Reflex tracks have just been like stock tracks in Reflex because they came with the PC version. But I am a little surprised they chose to do that for Legends, just because of the fact that they're only going to have 2 Supercross tracks from Reflex in the game. Of course, they did the best thing, which was having Fort Dodge Round 2. So that track came out like a week ago. Basically the best Supercross track from Reflex. Okay, so they did a really good job by adding that one in there. But I'm not going to lie, T-Sipper's not going to fib to you. I was kind of expecting the second Reflex track to be something more like a Kingston or a Stone Point, you know, a little Stony Point. Like, I just figured they would have went with the more original Reflex tracks when it came to an actual Reflex throwback track pack. You just would have kind of probably assumed that they would have done that. But they chose to go with Boxcar, you know, one of the DLC Reflex Supercross tracks. So, listen, bro. Anytime you take any track from the greatest arcade motocross game, it's going to be pretty damn good. I mean, you could take any of them. You know, DLC, not DLC, whatever. And it's going to be pretty good. Now, I will say, I feel like their Fort Dodge Round 2 track remake felt a little bit more accurate than this one does for some reason. This one's, it's still somewhat accurate, but it seems like they maybe struggled a little more with the scaling on this one, or getting this one to feel as much as it does on actual Reflex. This one has more, you know, kind of more like, it's got some more flat, like straightaway areas, and I was interested to see how they would do Boxcar, because the Reflex DLC Supercross tracks were more of that smaller, kind of more, what you would call like realistic scaling, not like your stock track, more like epic fantasy size scaling. I was interested to see how they did that on Legends, and to me, it just kind of feels, you know, it's like you're riding on something similar, but certainly not exact. You know, I've certainly feel like their Fort Dodge Round 2 felt more like the Fort Dodge Round 2 from Reflex than this Boxcar does, right? Especially this area right here, feels like they kind of struggled to fit all that in there, and that triple right there is like super wide. I don't know, just certain areas, kind of hard to explain it, but yeah, this track, for whatever reason, I feel like kind of goes to show you that the true difference between the actual physics and gameplay of Reflex versus Legends. This one kind of, I guess, makes you see that a little bit more than the Fort Dodge Round 2. Fort Dodge Round 2 is basically just jumps and corners. This one's kind of got some more switchbacky kind of sections to it, you know. But overall, still cool to see it in the game. Spencer boy. it's just a whole different animal, man. Like when you have a clutch boost system on a track from a game that didn't have a clutch boost system, you know, that little corner right there, there's like a little spot you could kind of cut the corner a little bit on reflex. I don't think you can really do that here. Same with the Fort Dodge Round 2. There was a bug in one of the corners up at the where you go up in the stadium, and it would kind of reset your bike. They fixed that on Fort Dodge Round 2. So there's definitely been some like updates, changes to it a little bit, you know. But as far as like trying to put it into Legends, I mean, you know, this track in particular, I could probably say it's like 10% more cramped scaling than I thought it would have been, like especially like right through here. This whole area on Reflex just feels bigger to me. Even if you try to, you know, try to include the differences in the games and the physics and all that, even still, I think they probably should have made that whole area a little bit bigger right there to give it more of that reflexy feel. But that becomes the big trick of it. You know, it's like trying to get a game that's not reflex to sort of feel like the track did in reflex. You know, this whole entire rhythm right here is way easier to hit on Legends because of the clutch boosting than it would be to hit on reflex. See, on reflex, you don't have the clutch boosting as like a sort of a get out of jail free card if you mess up in the corner or something like that. Like reflex is very, you got to be perfect momentum in the corner. You got to land the jumps perfectly. You don't have some special little, you know, let me dump my clutch real quick and it's going to NOS boost me too fast, too furious up over all these jumps, you know. It's not really like that in Reflex. Yeah, you kind of have a whip glitch in Reflex, which wasn't as big of a deal on the 360 version, but you know, clutch boosting is an entirely different animal. So just that factor alone is going to change a lot about the way some of these tracks feel, but I certainly say their Fort Dodge Round 2 just felt more accurate than this boxcar does. I certainly would say that for show. But still cool to see. They got the cool, you know, kind of that crazy reflex brick, kind of like you're in some sort of a factory or some shit. You know, that's kind of cool. It's got the visual vibe to it for sure. It's got all that cool visual look to it. Like I say, if there was any sort of DLC track pack that you should buy for Legends, it is the Reflex track pack, period. Like, above the Alive track pack, above the official Monster Energy Supercross track pack, all that shit. I'm just telling you right now, the Reflex one is the one that's most worth it in my opinion. Especially when you include the Pine Top and the Reflex National tracks that came with it. And then you got Fort Dodge Round 2 Supercross track and then Boxcar. I mean, I just personally think that's the best possible DLC. If you're going to buy any DLC, especially you OG Moto gamers, if you're just hopping in Legends like, damn, there's like 420 different DLC packs, which one do I buy? If you're going to buy any of them, buy the Reflex one. You know, that's Spency Boy's sort of opinion on it. If you're going to buy any of them, that Reflex one's going to probably give you the most, you know, OG kind of feeling and at least give you a little bit of reminiscing to the good arcade motocross days, you know. That's what the Reflex track pack will do for you.